This is TWiT.
We have seen quite a few acquisitions, and now we are starting to see some conversation about potential antitrust concerns. But maybe the story we're talking about today will help kind of even things out. We'll see. Joining us to talk about the PlayStation, Sony, and Destiny Bungie deal is Ian Sherr from CNET. Welcome back to the show.
How you doing?
Doing excellent. And how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. I've got my little Master Chief here to join us for our conversation, so it should be good.
I appreciate the decor. So I was hoping we could start today, as we typically do in any of these conversations, with just kind of a basic rundown of this latest news, this news about Sony and what it has decided to acquire and what we know about how much money Sony spent.
Yeah, so it's actually really fascinating because not just Sony's move, but the larger context it happened in. So Sony announced that it's buying Bungie, which is the company that makes a game called Destiny right now. It's very, very popular. They also are known for creating Halo, where my Master Chief comes from. And so they are enormous in and of themselves. Sony is said to have spent $3.6 billion with a B dollars on this acquisition. But what's really important to keep in mind here is not just that Sony did this. I mean, that's a big deal in and of itself. And PlayStation fans are excited to have a very popular game as part of the PlayStation world. But what is really fascinating is the larger conversation about all of this consolidation suddenly happening in the video game world. We have, just a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft spending an eye-watering amount of money, $68.7 billion to buy Activision Blizzard. And before that, you had Take-Two Interactive, the people who make Call of Duty. They bought Zynga, the mobile game developer, and they spent $12.7 billion. So it's not just that this happened, it's that suddenly we've got a huge amount of people trying to take control and get their power consolidated around the video game industry for a lot of reasons. And it's really fascinating to watch.
Absolutely. And now there's one clarification that I hope you can make for us, because I think some people will be a little bit confused. Sony bought this company that makes Halo, yet
right.
Microsoft is known for its the ongoing Halo franchise, and also for using the name Cortana for its own assistant. Can you explain what's going on there?
Sure.
Did Sony just buy Cortana out from Microsoft?
No, Microsoft would never let that happen, I think. So what happened was that Bungie has been owned by many companies over the years. So if you go back in time, they were actually bought by Microsoft right before the first Xbox came out. And that Halo game was the Halo product for the Xbox. And that was what they built for many years. And then they actually split off from Microsoft, but left Halo under Microsoft's control. So Destiny made Halo, but it no longer develops Halo. And they went on and they created Destiny, which they now create and develop and keep running. So this is one of those very few times when you have a developer where it matters whether they made it or they develop it. And that they just get to say, we created Halo. They don't get to say anything more than that now.
All right. So then now I'm a PC user or an Xbox user, and forgive me if this even shows my gaming ignorance, but do I have a concern about maybe not being able to play Destiny, or is Destiny already a PlayStation exclusive? What's the kind of future of Destiny, given that I know it's this online game that a lot of people can become a part of, and it continues to develop and change as the game goes on. Is it going to be locked down to the PlayStation now?
So there's been a lot of chatter within the video game world about what this all means. And by chatter in the video game world, I mean like the Reddit part of the video game world, right? The developers aren't talking about this subject very much at all. But within the communities of people who buy this stuff, there's a lot of concern. Well, is all of this sudden land grabbing causing there to be exclusive, which is very popular in the video game industry, right? Mario is pretty much only on Nintendo, right? Master Chief is only on the Xbox. And so would suddenly Destiny, which is a very popular game on all consoles and PC as well, suddenly just become for PlayStation? So Sony said that they will definitely make it available for anywhere a gamer is. So they are not planning to make it a PlayStation exclusive. They have done stuff in the past where they've offered special kind of, in-game gifts and stuff like that are only for Sony fans and whatnot. But otherwise, it seems as though Sony, for now, sees the opportunity just to have it under their control and also have that team as part of their larger team. I am curious to see, though, what happens when Microsoft acquired Bethesda, another massive acquisition that happened a couple of years ago. That involved the games Fallout and Doom and all of that stuff. And one of the conversations was, well, are all of these massive games going to suddenly be Xbox only? And Microsoft has actually confirmed that going forward, some of those games may very well only appear on the Xbox or PC, which means not the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation. So this stuff is really fascinating to watch. But for now, when it comes to Bungie and Destiny, it seems like it's a non-issue at the moment.
Understood. Now, the Activision Blizzard acquisition, part of that conversation, whenever we saw the reports about it, talked about how it was likely that the company was shopping around for a buyer, was looking for someone shopping around, rather, and had hoped to be acquired due to it being embroiled in a bit of a ongoing controversy due to its head perhaps being involved, but definitely in the reports that have come out showing a lack of action in several types of harassment and ongoing concerns there. Is this Bungie acquisition, does it have any kind of internal concerns, or was this just, as far as we know, was this Sony acquisition just about kind of matching what else was going on in the gaming industry?
Yeah, it's hard to tell right now. I do have to give a lot of credit to my friends at the Wall Street Journal who broke that story about Activision, because that was incredible reporting that really changed the way a lot of us understood what was going on. When it comes to Bungie, it seems as though one of the things that they talked about in the press releases was having enough capital to really expand what they want to do. And this is a conversation that's ongoing all the time, is that making video games, even though it seems like it's a very glamorous job with a lot of money, is actually extremely hard, and it costs unbelievable amounts of money. And so the reality of it is that Bungie has intimated, right? We don't know for sure, but they've very much suggested that they have more ideas coming down the pipeline, as they should, and that this agreement may be something that helps them finance all of that. And that might be a really important part of what's going on here, is not, corporate drama or anything like that, or stuff going on with executives. It may simply be a matter of they need a large player to support them, just like, by the way, Microsoft supported them with Halo. When it came to Destiny, Activision Blizzard helped them launch Destiny back then. And now whatever's next might be, so they needed Sony to really make it work.
Yeah, one of the trends that I've seen come out of this is an ongoing conversation about the importance of AI and other types of machine learning technologies and the part that they play in creating these games, in maintaining these games, and building these games. So I'm curious, do we think that we're going to continue to see these larger companies acquiring these game studios, these game creators, in the interest of sort of merging the talent that they have in AI and machine learning with the talent that these video game creators have? Do you think this is just kind of the start of these acquisitions, or was this kind of the last big one that we'll see for a while?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell, right? I mean, first off, $68.7 billion. It's hard to wrap my head around what that even looks like if it was an airplane hangar. Like, it's crazy, right? And I remember when like Oculus was bought for $2 billion and everyone was like, wow, that's a lot of money. And when Instagram was bought for $1 billion, you remember those old days?
Oh, so man, back in the day.
That's right.
It's kind of crazy to think what we're in here. But I will say that the industry seems to go through these moments of ups and downs where there is a huge amount of acquisitions and then it calms and then it happens again and then it calms. And so I think right now we're in this interesting churning moment. And I think part of what's driving it is that there's a ton of competition between Microsoft and Sony about what the next generation of gaming is going to look like. Right? Both of them have talked about how they don't just see it about the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. They're very happy if you buy them. But what really is going on is that they are building up these worlds that they want us all to interact with, right? The Xbox community, the PlayStation community, where I've got the different games that I log into and all of this type of stuff. You think about game streaming and the idea of being able to play a game like it's a Netflix movie, just over the internet, not having to have a disc or download anything. Those types of things require that these brands get even bigger. And I think that is what's going on partially. There's a lot of talk about the metaverse and what shared digital worlds are going to feel like. And that word came up during Sony's present announcement about this. They'd be crazy not to mention that word. But we're starting to see kind of the tech industry is starting to kind of come together around the video game industry because there's this feeling, whether or not it happens, I'm curious, but there's this feeling that video games are part of the next big step of the tech world. And that is where I think Sony's money is really headed.
Now, I know you're not first and foremost a policy guy, but there was a report, I think it was earlier this week, it may have been last week, that said the FTC, instead of the Department of Justice, might be put in charge of reviewing the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard acquisition to see if that's going to go through. And there are back and forths on whether it will end up getting a pass. I'm curious what you think about this Sony acquisition and the Microsoft acquisition. Do you have any predictions you want to make on if these will end up going through or if there's going to be a concern about monopoly or other antitrust issues?
Well, first off, there's definitely a concern without question. It is worth noting that the FTC and the DOJ split up a lot of this type of stuff. So the FTC takes some of them, the DOJ takes others. So just because it's the FTC, I'm not reading too far into that. But it is worth noting that especially the head of the FTC has been very vocal about the tech industry and concerns about larger conversations around monopolies and power. And Microsoft spending, again, just unbelievable amount of money on Activision Blizzard is going to get the government's attention without question. I don't know what it's going to look like because it seems like every administration in Washington has had a different approach to what they consider to be monopoly power and what is acceptable competition. The way that we saw the acquisition between T-Mobile and Sprint happen, you remember all of that? That turned very much on who was in charge in Washington. And so I wonder what this is going to look like as well. But odds are, one of the things I think we're going to all take out of this is that the video game industry is not some little group of people that make games for nerds in their basements, right? That this is one of the largest entertainment mediums in the world. And now it's starting to be treated that way by the larger public and the larger market. And that means a lot of this attention that they've never seen before.
Understood. Well, that was an excellent answer, and you always provide excellent answers when you're on the show. Thank you for joining us today. If folks would like to follow you online and check out all of your great work, where should they go to do so?
Yeah, I try to keep it easy. Almost every platform, my username is Ian Sherr, IANSHERR. Twitter, Facebook, doesn't matter. You'll find me there.
Thank you so much, Ian. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And I just want to tag on before we go. We had this in the rundown yesterday on This Week in Google, this story and the kind of all around the kind of games acquisitions and everything. And one thing jumped out to me. There was an estimate that it's $180 billion in revenue in 2021 for the games industry compared to the motion picture industry, around 80 billion. So that tells you something right there,
a whole
right? It's just
$100 billion
like
more. Wow.
I mean, it's just a huge difference.
Is most of that buying jewels to keep playing the free-to-play games
question.
on your phone?
I would imagine a lot of it is. Yeah, no question. Seems that way anyways.